How can I do a series of Les Paul based lessons without looking at a bit of Steve Jones and a bit of Sex Pistols? So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to look at a Sex Pistols classic, Anarchy in the UK. Also, if I have time, I might look at one of the lesser known Sex Pistols tracks and film a little video on that. I might put that out a bit later this year. So I love the guitar playing of Steve Jones. If you've not seen it, you must check out elsewhere on YouTube. There's a really great video where he demos how he plays some of the riffs on Never Mind the Bollocks, and he talks a little bit about his guitar playing style. He talks about how he learned guitar. Apparently he just took a load of speed and then played along to New York Dolls and Stooges records, which I suppose that's one way of learning how to play guitar. That's not something I endorse or recommend, kids. And in this video, Steve Jones is really funny, he's self-deprecating, and he tries to play down his guitar abilities, but I actually think that he was a really great guitar player, and I think it's the done thing with punk musicians and with the Sex Pistols in particular to say, well, they couldn't really play their instruments. And in the case of somebody like Sid Vicious, I suppose that was true, but in the case of Steve Jones, absolutely not true. He was a really incredible player, and I don't think I'm alone in thinking that. When I was preparing this video, I found a quote from Chris Thomas, who was one of the producers on Never Mind the Bollocks, and I've got the quote here actually. He's talking about Steve Jones when he first came into the studio, and he says, Steve Jones came in fully formed. I don't know how, but he was like a veteran from the first minute. So solid, so rhythmic, and so tight. And I completely agree with that. He's a really solid rhythm guitar player. Also a very inventive player, as you can see in some of the guitar parts and riffs in this song and in the two solos from this song. So let me do what I usually do. I'm going to take you through all of the different parts of this song. I don't want to labour things too much because this is the Sex Pistols after all. I don't think we need to be too precise and finicky about what's going on, but I'm going to try and describe all of the pertinent details to you. So let's get to it. So the Steve Jones rhythm guitar style is really all about power chords, and I'm assuming for the purposes of this video that you already know what power chords are and that you know how to play your basic 6th string and 5th string root power chord shapes. If you don't know about power chords, why? I suggest you look at the marvellous pair of videos that I've done on power chords. You can find those elsewhere on this channel. I'll post a link above this video so you can check those out if you need to. Now, it seems to me that all of the riffs in this song are power chord based, and they're made up of 3-note power chords. And when you're playing power chords, you've got a few options as far as fingering goes. If you're playing an A power chord, for instance, at the 5th fret, probably the most accurate way of doing that is to play the root note with your 1st finger, and then to play the pair of notes at the 7th fret with your 3rd finger and then your 4th finger. And then I'm just muting the higher strings with the underside of my index finger. So that's option 1. Some people like to flatten down the 3rd finger so that it's barring the 5th and the 4th strings. That works pretty well too. And you've also got an option of fretting a full bar chord, so fretting in this case an A major bar chord, and then using your picking hand accuracy just to hit the 3 notes that you want in that chord. So I'm just strumming the 6th, 5th and 4th strings there. You don't want to hear the sweeter sounding higher strings there. The same goes with the 5th string root shapes. You can play it like this. You can bar with your 3rd finger. You can play the full chord and just hit the lower strings. That seems to be what Steve Jones does most of the time. Just looking at some video footage of his style, he's often holding these big bar chord shapes, but because he's so tight and accurate with his picking hand, you're not getting any unwanted notes there. So as far as power chords go, you've got some options. I suggest you just play around and see what works best for you. On to the song then, and let's start with the introduction. What a iconic introduction that is, and it's 5th string root power chords all the way here. So we're starting off with this G power chord up at the 10th fret. Then we're moving down 2 frets to an F power chord, and then down 1 fret to an E, down 2 frets to a D, and then down 2 more frets to a C. And best if you just listen to the record to get the rhythm there, but we've really got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when you hit that final C power chord, you start chugging away. A bit of palm muting sounds good there too. And picking wise in this song, mostly it's all downstrokes, just very aggressive driving 8-note downstrokes. But there are some exceptions to that, and one sort of extra little thing that you can add to this intro riff and to the chorus riff, which is essentially the same thing, which is going to make it sound a bit more like the record, is just to occasionally add a quick down, up, down with your picking hand, and that usually comes just before a chord change. So we could go, and then on the F, I'm just changing to the E chord a fraction early and doing a quick down, up, down with the pick, and the same into the D chord and the same into the C chord. So if you just watch that slowly, 2, 3, 4. That's the introduction. On to the verse riff, and that sounds like this. And essentially this is made up of 3 different chords. We've got a C power chord, and then we've got an F and an E power chord. And once again, you've got various different options as to how you play these power chords. I think almost certainly Steve Jones is playing the C power chord like this, so 5th string root at the 3rd fret. It's an 8-note rhythm. And one thing that you can hear him doing is just occasionally lifting up the 1st finger, so you've got an open A string in there. So in that kind of rhythm. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then we've got the F to the E power chord. That's just 1 hit on each of those chords. And you've got various ways that you can do this. Now, if you listen to the Nevermind the Bollocks recording, there's a lot going on guitar-wise. I suspect there are many different layers of guitars, lots of overdubs, and I don't think they're all playing exactly the same thing. So it's up to you to decide exactly how you play these riffs, I think. Watching that Steve Jones video that I spoke about earlier, he's playing the riff like this. And he's playing the F to the E power chord with a 4th string root power chord shape, which is slightly unusual. So we've got F note here and then a C here, and then we're moving that down 1 fret. So in isolation, I think that sounds a little bit thin, but almost certainly what's happening is that there are other guitar tracks playing those same chords in different places on the guitar. So you can play those 2 power chords, the F to the E, an octave lower. You could play them down here with the root on the 6th string. Or you could play those chords up here with a 5th string root. So those are really your 3 options with the main riff. Or the final option, so play around with those. You could just choose one of those that's your favourite, or you could kind of mix and match between them. The chorus is really exactly the same as the introduction. If anything, the strumming is just a little bit busier. So and just to turn everything around at the end of the chorus, we're going from the C down to a G. This is a 6-string root G5 power chord. And that sets everything up to go round for the next verse. Now we have what I think is a great pair of guitar solos in this song. The first guitar solo is the one that goes like this. Just based on these little triad shapes played quite high up the neck. And whilst that is going on, the rhythm guitar is actually playing a D to an E. And over the top of that, as I said, Jones is playing these little triad shapes, and what we've actually got is an A minor triad shape. So it's 14 on the G, 13 on the B, and 12 on the high E. So that's A, C, E, which is an A minor triad shape, and we're moving that up 2 frets to a B minor triad shape. And I suppose what's going on, because we're playing that over a D and an E, we're actually, I suppose, getting a kind of a superimposed kind of minor ninth sound there. So some far out jazzy harmony from Steve Jones there. Who would have thought it? Anyway, so what's going on here? We're playing these triad shapes, and we're playing the lowest pair of notes, and then playing the strings in order 1, 2, 3. So it's then we're playing the lowest notes again and sliding up 2 frets, and then arpeggiating strings 1, 2, 3, and then we're doing the same thing. You could just slide into that first shape as well, I think. So just going back and forth between those 2 shapes. Then we've got this really nice lick based on double and triple stops. It goes like this. So on the recording it's actually pretty hard to hear exactly what's going on here because it's such a dense and quite chaotic mix, but this is my best guess as to what is happening. We've got this 12th fret double stop on the A and the D, and then I'm playing the 14th fret on the same 2 strings, and then I'm playing the 12th fret on the D, G, B, playing that 3 times. Then I've got this pair of thirds shapes, so 14 on the G, 13 on the B, playing that 4 times, then sliding up 2 frets, the same shape, just taking 2 frets higher. And then we're coming back down the other end of the neck, and the solo wraps up with this actually nice melodic kind of a line here. So it's B to C on the G string, then we've got D on the B string, and then we've got C, B, C, B, and then over to the 5th fret on the D we've got a G note, and then D, 5th fret on the A string. That's the first solo. What a perfectly formed solo that is. Really great. If you like, I can just play that through for you slowly. So we've got and in this song we have not one but 2 great guitar solos. The second guitar solo is something like this. Again, this is all kind of based on double stops and thirds, and it's quite surprisingly melodic as well. So we've got this shape here, which is an F sharp and an A. It's the 11th fret on the G, 10 on the B, and then we're moving that 2 frets lower and sliding back to the first shape again. And then we've got the 12th fret on both the G and the B strings, and then going back to the previous shape, and then down to the 8th and 9th frets, and sliding up again. So the basic idea is this. And what really makes this come to life is if you just add in a bit of the open D string as well, and that can kind of be droning away at the same time as the double stops or in between the double stops. So with that it ends up sounding like this. I think we repeat that 3 or 4 times, and the whole thing wraps up with this C note here, played at the 5th fret on the G string, and that just sustains, add a little bit of vibrato, and eventually it feeds back. And that's really about it. I think we go around for another verse, another chorus, and then the song wraps up. Let's talk gear then, and I was just reading up on the recording of Never Mind the Bollocks, and I think it's clear that Jones would have used Les Pauls when he recorded that album. As far as amps go, apparently he was using a Fender Twin, which I found quite surprising because the sounds I'm hearing on that record don't really sound anything like a Fender Twin to me, so who knows what was going on there. Maybe it was a Twin, maybe it wasn't, maybe he's using a Twin with some kind of distortion pedal. As far as the gear that I'm using today, I'm using my Les Paul, which is a 59 reissue. I'm going into my Vox AC30, and I'm using a couple of pedals today. I've got my Rat distortion or overdrive pedal, and then after that I've got my J Rocket Archer, which is another overdrive pedal. I'm running both of those pedals just to thicken up the sound a little bit. I think the tones I'm hearing on Never Mind the Bollocks are great guitar sounds, and they're quite mid-rangey, so there's a medium amount of gain, quite a lot of mid-range, and the Rat distortion in particular seems to suit that kind of character of sound. So that's Anarchy in the UK for you. I hope you enjoy learning to play this song. If you enjoyed this video, if you're new to my channel, you might like to check out some of the other videos that I've made. I've done lots of other punky things, lots of alternative things, so you can search on YouTube, or easier might be to go to my website where I've got a big long list of all the various songs I've looked at over the years. Thank you for watching. I shall see you next time. Cheerio.